Hello and welcome back to Mirror Interpretation Todorova. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Ioana. I am an interpreter and a polyglot, and today I'm answering your questions. In particular, that video will be more focused on the legal part of signing as a contractor for another company. I'm answering this question that Nix509 asked me about a year ago. Yes, I've been planning on doing that. However, I haven't been so good with answering all your questions and addressing them, and I am still learning how to use the platform. So also I'm working full-time as an interpreter, and this is why my channel, it doesn't have so much hype, it doesn't have so much ranking and all that. The reason why is because it's just a side thing for me, and I haven't had enough time to do that, but I'm doing it step by step, learning together with you. So Nix509, thank you for your patience. The question is, I come across an interpretation company that has contract clause that I'm not comfortable to sign yet. I would like to get an advice opinion in this clause. And we're gonna read the clause. No conflict of interest covenants. Interpreter agrees that while he or she is performing services for XYZ, interpreter will not undertake any outside activity, whatever not competitive with business XYZ that could reasonably be expected to give rise to a conflict of interest or otherwise interfere with the interpreter's duties and obligation at XYZ. What do you think about this contract clause? Is it common and is it fair to sign? I feel like if I sign, I will not be able to do other interpretations from other companies. Please advise. Thank you so much. No be interpreter. So I'm gonna go back to this clause because a lot of bad companies, I would call them bad, but I would say not very, I would call them not legally savvy companies, will have a similar clauses in their contracts. And the reason why is because whoever write the contracts for them doesn't understand the legal portion of that. I don't know if I guys mentioned, I have a master in business management and business administration, and I study international law. Particularly, I study for 4 years something called corporative law. And these contracts that we receive as a freelancer are part of this legal system. So I'm going to break this down for you. So interpreters agrees that while he is performing services. So I want you to understand that this first part, it doesn't mean all the services that you can provide. This first clause relates only to the services that you're contracted for, which mean if you speak 5 languages like me, and you have this company, we'll call company Alpha, that contract you to do interpreting with Russian. Let's say this is gonna be service number 1, Russian interpretation. And this company Alpha send you this contract, whatever things is written about services, it's only applicable to the language that you sell for this company. In this case will be service Russian interpreter. Okay, let's go further. Interpreter will not undertake any outside activities. And this is where we're coming about not being legally savvy. What this clause means that you agree that you will not take any outside activity, but this is conditioned to those activity. This means you're not gonna take Russian services This part, wherever or not competitive, is again not legally savvy, because whoever typed this contract just probably copied and didn't understand this type of portion of the contract that we are reading here. It's usually related to employees. And usually this type of contract is related to employees that were trained by a company. And the reason why we have these few sentences that I'm reading and breaking down for you is because the company train you to do something that you can learn only in this company. And the reason why these clausula are included in the contract is because they want to protect the knowledge of this company that they would give you, and you will not go to exploit and share with other companies. This is why you have this clausula. And when I say the company is not legally savvy, it means that they just copy this without thinking what it legally means. But let's go further. Whatever or not competitive with business XYZ. Okay. Once again, the reason that you have interpreter will not undertake any outside activity competitive with the business XYZ. So, what this phrase tells me, it tells me that the company that sent you this contract, in order to forbid you to not take and provide any services outside of what you provide for them. Let's say they want to contract you full-time for Russian. The fact that they forbid you to do this, it means that you are an employee. So if you were contracted as an employee full-time Russian, again, service number 1, Russian English, this company requests you to not provide this service for anyone else. What this means for you? It means that they are willing and they should recompensate you very good for being fully available for them, which I am adopting. It was your case, Nick. But let's say that it says whatever not competitive, they don't want you to do Russian services for anyone else whatsoever, and you're contracting as an employee, not as a freelancer. Okay? Not competitive, this means for you that you agree for the whatever amount they agree to pay you hourly full time, because this money that they would offer you should recompensate for you to decline any offering anywhere else these services that you provide for them. The money that they pay you should recompensate you for saying no to everybody else, which means at this point it means that would be a full-time position for you, and the company will fully use you, because otherwise, if it's not a full-time, and we're gonna go there, if you're just a contractor, I'm gonna continue discussing this. But so good so far. I hope this is clear. That could reasonably be expected to give rise to conflict of interest. Okay. Services that could reasonably be expected to give conflict of interest. And the key word in this contract it says conflict of interest. Okay, I will clarify what this means for you. If you provide 5 languages, for example, let's say you provide Russian, English, Macedonian, French, German, and your client tells you that you could reasonably expect it, so you cannot provide service that could be a conflict of interest. This is a very broad term in legal system, and usually I will tell you what means conflict of interest. Let's say that this company Alpha hired you to do services in clinic, health images, let's say Health Images Colorado, and this they forbid you to provide any conflict of what service could mean conflict of interest. Let's say that Health Images offer you to do a cleaning services for them, part-time, Saturday morning, 3 hours. Is that conflict of interest? The answer is no. But let's say that you go to Health Images to interpret for company Alpha, and then you decide that you're a great interpreter and you don't need company Alpha. You met them, they know you, and this is only if you are employee. I'm repeating employee. I want you to understand why I repeat the word employee. Employee gives full entitlement of the company for your time and your services, and if you sign this contract, it means they will recompensate you for declining any further offers. But let's say you go to Health Images and they like you so much and they decide to contract you to provide services out of company Alpha. Let's imagine that. So this is called loyal competition. There is many forms of the law there. You can read about it, but conflict of interest is when you basically steal the client of company Alpha and you try to sell your service directly. This is called conflict of interest. Let's say you provide for Health Images Russian through Alpha, and now you decide to do it yourself. You met them through Alpha. So any connections or any jobs that you met or client through this company that contracts you, providing the services that they contract you for would be, let's call it Russian language, you decide to steal their client, legally that would be considered as loyal competition and conflict of interest. Of course, if you read the contract, if you read best practice, best protocols, we know what's conflict of interest. You cannot provide services for people that you know and whatsoever. This is a different topic. But when we read the contract, conflict of interest, we in this part of the contract, we are talking about loyal competition. When you try to compete with whom give you job. And this part of the contract, it's aimed for you to not take advantage of the connections of this company and not trying to steal their customers. Once again, this type of contract is very confusing because it's copied from the employee contract. And if you receive this contract as a freelancer, I'm gonna break this down in a second for you, or otherwise interfere with the interpreter duties and obligations for XYZ. I will give you example for that. So this means that you will refuse to provide any services that can put the company Alpha and your role as an interpreter in any risky situation, or interfere or conflict of interest. Or so basically, if you receive that as an employee, it means that you have to follow the rules that this company impose you if you're contracted for full time. And let's say, I don't know, let's say you're what could be, I'm trying to think of situation that could mean that will interfere with duties as an interpreter. I'm giving you an example. You are a receptionist as a clinic and you provide interpretation for Alpha. And while you're providing interpretation services, you decide to call some other clients of the clinic. While in the role of the interpreter, you cannot do reception job. This is basically mean conflict of interest or interfere in duties and obligation as an interpreter. I think that the most important thing for you to remember as an interpreter, your role is to interpret. And if you want to watch my video for this company that I had experienced trying to push me to do receptionist services, and when I declined, they harassed me every possible way until I file a federal complaint for HIPAA violation and they stopped bothering me. What I want to say is that you as an interpreter, you should take those books for best practice, best protocols and memorize them, because only when you know your boundary of the role of the interpreter, only then you can protect yourself. Because if you do interpretation services and you decide to voluntarily provide reception services for clinics or clients or people, you are breaking you're violating your role of an interpreter. Because if you're hired to interpret for 1 to 2 p.m., your only job must be interpret the session. Once the session is over, You do not have to do any reminding calls, any receptionist service or anything else. Because let me tell you, if there is a suit, the person who is gonna burn is gonna be you as an interpreter. And legally, there is no such a thing as I don't know. Not knowing doesn't excuse you in the face of the law and does not take away your responsibility. If unknowingly you violate HIPAA or you provide services out of the scope of your role, you can be in a huge mess, and I guarantee you, if you do it one time, the company will have a grip on you and you're gonna be hooked into this mess for a very, very long time. The ignorance is not an excuse in the face of law. So basically, what this part means, that as an employee and as an interpreter for this company, because we're talking about interpreting contract, if you are interpreting and then you see I will give you this is another example. Here you go. You're interpreting and suddenly there is this huge space of, you could see that, I have seen that, there is a big mess of blood. The person puked blood and it goes all over the place, and you as a great human kindly decide to clean it. Guess what? This blood had some disease. Imagine. You just touch it and you get it, and then you touch another 10 people and you transfer it to 10 people. Let's guess, this is crazy situation, but I had a friend that his mother was working in Libya, and it came out that some syringe had a HIV, and simply because she was in the hospital, they accused her of getting HIV to children. So life is insane thing, but let's say that you try to do something kind, a little gesture, wipe, clean, I don't know whatsoever is that. That is not interpreting. I will tell you, when I was interpreting in the hospital, and I thanks goodness I stopped, I would never shake hands. I would say, nice to meet you. I would never touch it. Even if I have to open the door, I would use my elbow. I'm not gonna touch anything. I'm not gonna clean anything. I'm not gonna... You cannot even help elderly. Why? Because if this elderly gets hurt or break his hip or anything like that, you can be sued for that here in the USA. You can be sued for giving the wrong CPR here. Believe it or not, yes. So just to remember that your role is to interpret, or whatever if you're contracted to wipe table, that should be ending of your service. Because if you hurt yourself or by negligence cause the damage or the hurt of someone else, who is going to jail? Who is going to pay a fine? It's gonna be you. So this part of the contract, it says anything else that can interfere with your duties and obligation for XYZ. Your contract as a linguist is very clear, and when you see that part, it simply means that you have to stick for why you're hired. And just remember one thing, I want to remind and underline that, and I'm gonna put this video that I share my experience with company pressuring me. So my alpha company would pressure me to provide receptionist services, and the reception of the clinics also would pressure me to provide receptionist services. You're like, I'm a horrible person because I refuse to do it. I was treated horribly because I refused to do it. But the matter of the fact is that once you get to your contract and you read it, does it say you are allowed to call patient of clinics XYZ and remind them of their appointment in Russian language? No. My contract says interpreting if schedule, when schedule, for the time frame you are scheduled. I am paid to interpret, and this is what I do. I don't care for anything else. I don't have to send a receptionist. I don't have to call patients. I don't have to do anything out of interpreting between provider and patient. So this part of the contract, if you are employee, it sets up the time or the legal frame for you to stick to what you're hired for. And why I'm saying to you, it doesn't matter what people say to you, because there is some horrible practicing companies and people that are ignorant out there that are trying to compete in a very nasty ways with other companies. And what they're doing is they're trying, and they would try to push you as they try to push me. And I will tell you, the level of harassment that I receive when I say no was extreme. They would harass you in such a ways that you can adopt. Read your contract. Basically, your contract is also your document that protects you. And if you believe that any kind of services, cleaning, wiping, calling people from your cell phone, it's not included in your contract as a service that you would provide, you could politely decline. As simple as that. As simple as that. So let's look this agreement here as if it was sent not as a full-time interpreter, but you receive this as a contractor. And I think what makes this clausula a little bit confusing is because it's copied from the employee contract. Okay, and also I did personally have this doubt myself when I started working here. I was thinking, until I went and educate myself. I did educate myself, and I read a lot of clausula, and I speak with some people that had more knowledge than me, and I learned from it. So if you receive this as a freelance contractor, as a freelance interpreter, there is this portion of this clausula that render this clausula legally is called nullified. Nullified because it's defective by law. This is legally how it's expressed, but I'm going to express it simply for you. By law, as a freelancer, you have full right to provide your services for as many companies as you want, as long as, once again, there is no conflict of interest again. Okay? So let's read this part. While performing services for. And again, while performing services for, it means only for the time frame that you're booked. You have 1 hour of medical interpreter. In this 1 hour, you should not do in the time that you are scheduled for them, in the time that you have the tag. I have the tag, but it's not. Let's say this is my tag. I'm now working for this company, pop-up voice, for this 30 seconds. In this 30 seconds that they pay me, I have to follow the rules, the way they want me to interpret. The ID is POP. Let's say that's my ID. I will follow the protocols and act as an interpreter, Russian, in these 30 seconds. This is over. They pay. This is over. I've done the services for this company. In the time frame that you provide services for this company, this 30 seconds, I should not do anything. I should not, okay, let's go ahead. Interpreter will not undertake any outside activities. So while I'm interpreting for this company pop-up, I'm not gonna clean the wall, I'm not gonna wash the floor. I'm just gonna stay to this interpreting session. I'm gonna stay focused to interpreting. I will not do anything else. Very simple, very clear, right? Whatever or not competitive with this business. It doesn't matter if my cleaning activities at the doctor's office compete with the interpretation business. By being here for this company pop-up, I'm not gonna clean, I'm not gonna help elderly, I'm not gonna weigh them, I'm not gonna help them with their clothes. I am gonna stick to my notebook and interpret. I'm gonna take notes, that's it, okay? Whatever or not will be competitive with this business that could reasonably be expected to give rise of conflict of interest. Conflict of interest could be interpreting for your neighbor. You know codes of ethics for best practice, best protocols, which as a contractor, this means that any activity that is not interpreting, it's not okay with me. I pay you to put this tag here and for these 30 seconds to simply interpret. I don't care if you want to clean. It's not my business. I pay you to interpret, and I'm expecting you independently from if what you're gonna do is gonna be competitive to my business or no. You should not do it, period. This is basically what it means for you as a freelancer. You know what is conflict of interest, right? We already talked. You should check the interpreter's code of ethics, the portion called conflict of interest, and when you can withdraw from a session. But in this case, in this piece of contract, it simply means that if you're scheduled to interpret while interpreting for this short period of time, it could be 5 minutes, it could be 2 hours, you are expected to stay there as an interpreter and period. Or otherwise interfere with interpreter's duties and obligation. It means that you should stay there, focus on your duty as an interpreter. And you should not be interested in saving anyone, making CPR, cleaning blood, cleaning spots, I don't know, helping elderly to dress, undress, or anything like that. You should not do this. Simple as that. If you receive this as a contractor, and there are many other clauses similar to this one, most of the companies will include it. It simply means that you're gonna stick to your interpreter role. While they pay you this $20 an hour, whatever it is, legally, that's all you're gonna do. You cannot call the mothers of the patient and tell them that everything went well and the test is good. No. There is nothing else that you could do for this time that the company pays you except interpreting. So I want to clarify this part that I believe you, Nix 509, got confused. I think you get interpreter will not undertake any outside activity. A lot of people confuse that and they think that, oh, they forbid me to sell my services to other people. No, this is not correct. What this part of the contract mean and is strictly applied to the time of this company paid you. If the company paid you for 3 hours during, where you see while performing services, it means while I am here. Hello, my name is Joanna. I'm here in behalf of a company called Alpha Translations, and I'm going to be your interpreter for today, Bulgarian, Russian. While and from the time that I meet the clients, whatever, and set up the expectation, I will interpret everything you say and keep it confidential. Please speak shortly, use short phrases in order to ensure accuracy, pause often. I set up the pre-session. I set up the expectations. If I raise my hand, you should pause. Please and thank you. If they don't understand the gesture, I say pause please, and they do pause while performing the time that you're paid off. For this time that you sell yourself for $20, imagine it's $20, there is a time frame. I sold myself legally to this company for $20 and they schedule me for 2 hours from 10 to 12 on Saturday morning. It means in the time for these 2 hours, I belong to this company. Just for this time frame that they paid me for. As a contractor, it means exactly that. The moment that the 2 hours are gone, this clausula is not working anymore. All the rest of the times that you have from this Saturday to after 3 weeks Saturday until they schedule you, it's your time and you could sell Italian, Spanish, French, German, Russian, Uzbeki, and Kazakh and any other languages to whoever you want. But once again, in order to understand those contracts, you have to read the codes of ethics for interpreters. There is nothing wrong with this clausula, I would say. I believe it simply set up the expectations for you as an interpreter and contractor that while you're interpreting, you're expected to follow best practice, best protocols, not interfere in anything that can be resulting as a conflict of interest for either parties. That's my breaking down for you. Nix 509. I hope it was useful. As you understand, I love this question. Yes, I was so passionate about it. I hope this answered your questions. And if you are newbie interpreters and you were wondering what some of your clause of the contract means, you can send it or you can type it in question. I would love to address it for you. Said that, it was a real pleasure to answer your question, Nix 509, and I'm so sorry it took me 1 year. Please forgive me, but better late than never. I will make this video public and I hope will be useful for other people, not only for you. Thank you guys for being here. And also, if you like to purchase Spanish, English, medical terminology videos, you can click on, there is a classes that you can buy. They're very cheap right now. I'm going to adjust the price. It's just $47. So now is the best time to buy, if you believe it or not. I'm gonna put a one lifetime charge. I think it's gonna be about $250, and you can have it forever. You can have access to those classes anytime you like. And said that also these classes are going to come out soon in Russian and Bulgarian and Italian. Thank you for being here, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.